Right, this was my attempt to be artistic. Let's never speak of it again. Right, so in one of these questions you'll have a table of data. Usually it will be what's called grouped data, which means that all the stuff in this left column here isn't just kind of one number, it's a range of numbers for each category. And generally in the exam they actually give you a blank column with cumulative frequency at the top to give you a clue as to what you're supposed to be doing. So cumulative frequency is just like a running total. So the first one is just going to match the first frequency, so that's 3. And then the next one you add on the 5, so that's 8. Then you add on the 12, so that's 20. Then you add on the 9, so that's 29. And finally you add on the 2, so that's 31. So you'd then be asked to draw a graph from this data. The thing to remember when drawing the graph is that you always use the top end of each range. So we're going to be using these numbers on the right rather than the ones on the left, or the kind of midpoints or anything, when you draw the graph. Okay. In the exam they'll also have the axes printed for you, so you just have to plot the points. So remember, again, at the top end of each interval. So the first one is at 50, and then 3, and then 75, 8, etc. So these crosses are representing how many things have a height that is less than or equal to that particular height. So for example, this one, which relates to this line of the table, is telling us that there are 20 things with a height that is less than or equal to 85. We can also put a cross down here corresponding to the bottom of the lowest interval, because we know that there's nothing that's got a height of less than 0. And if, for example, the bottom interval had been 20 to 50, then that would mean we know there's nothing that's got a height less than 20, so we could have put a cross at 20 on the height axis. So once you've done your crosses, you have to join it up with a smooth curve, and that curve has to hit every single one of those points. It can't miss any of them, otherwise you're going to lose a mark. So with your curve, you can then do things like find out what the median is, or at least estimate what the median is. So if you look at the highest cumulative frequency, it goes up to 31 here. So to find the median, you do half of that number, so that would be 15.5. You find that on the axis, and then you go along to the curve and go down, and then you read off what you think this number is, and that would be your median. So maybe that's about 81. I've got quite a poor scale here, so it's not going to be particularly accurate. You can also find the quartiles, so that's a very similar process. So instead of going halfway up, you go a quarter of the way up, so that's going to be at 7.75. And then you'd go down, so maybe that's, I don't know, about 68 for the lower quartile. And then the upper quartile, that's going to be at 23.25. And then you'd go along and down, and maybe that's about 95. From those you can then get the interquartile range, so that's just the upper quartile minus the lower quartile, so that's going to be 27. You could also answer kind of more wordy questions, so how many had a height of 60 or more. So if you look at 60 on the height axis, and then try and read off on the cumulative frequency axis, that's maybe about 5, but that means that 5 had a height of 60 or less, so the number that was 60 or more would be 31 minus the 5, so that's going to be 26. And that's it for cumulative frequency. If you want any videos for any other topics, just let me know by sending me an email.